SpaceX just broke its own golden rule. The company that revolutionized spaceflight with reusability is now building a Starship designed to fly only once. No heat shield, no flaps, no return trip. This stripped-down beast exists for one purpose: beat China to the moon before 2030. But here's what nobody's talking about. This gamble could either secure America's lunar dominance or become the most expensive mistake in space history. Why would Elon Musk abandon the very principle that made SpaceX successful? And what does China know that's forcing this drastic move? Let's dive right in. On December 18th, 2025, something historic happened that most people missed. Jared Isaacman, a billionaire who actually flew to space with SpaceX, was sworn in as NASA's 15th administrator. The same day, President Trump signed an executive order titled Ensuring American Space Superiority. The message was crystal clear: land Americans on the moon by 2028, not 2030, not, eventually, 2028. That gives SpaceX roughly 2 years to accomplish what seems impossible: finish Starship HLS, master orbital refueling, and fly an uncrewed test landing on the lunar surface. Can they actually pull this off? The short answer is yes, but only if they're willing to break their own rules. Here's the brutal reality most space enthusiasts don't want to face. SpaceX has been obsessed with full reusability since day one. Every Starship test flight focuses on catching boosters, perfecting heat shields, and landing intact. Noble goals, absolutely, but while they've been chasing the perfect reusable system, actual payload delivery keeps getting delayed. If SpaceX had started with a simple, expendable upper stage back in 2023, they'd probably have dozens of successful orbital missions by now. Instead, they're trying to perfect everything simultaneously while China methodically executes their lunar program. This is where the simplified Starship changes everything. Strip away the heat shield, 18,000 ceramic tiles that cost millions and take weeks to install. Remove the massive steel flaps weighing several tons. Eliminate solar arrays, simplify avionics, reduce structural reinforcement. What you get is a powerful upper stage built for one mission: deliver cargo to the moon and stay there. No return trip, no atmospheric re-entry, just raw payload capacity maximized for lunar operations. The economics are staggering. A fully reusable Starship might cost $10 million per flight, eventually, but building one takes 2 months and requires perfecting technologies never before demonstrated. A simplified Starship? 1 month to build at roughly half the price, maybe $20 to $30 million total. Compare that to NASA's Space Launch System at $2.2 billion per launch. Suddenly, throwing away a simplified Starship doesn't seem wasteful at all. But here's what makes this strategy brilliant. The simplified Starship doesn't actually get wasted. It becomes permanent lunar infrastructure. After landing, it transforms into habitation modules, storage facilities, or research labs for Moonbase Alpha. That $30 million investment delivers irreplaceable, real-world landing data and becomes part of humanity's first permanent off-world settlement. Can you put a price on that kind of dual-purpose engineering? Now let's talk about why this matters beyond engineering elegance. In May 2023, China publicly announced their intention to land taikonauts on the moon by 2030. Unlike NASA's constantly slipping Artemis schedules, China's 2030 target hasn't moved. They've tested their lunar lander multiple times. Their Long March 10 rocket is in development. And here's the pattern that should terrify American policymakers. In 2010, China said they'd build a space station. Everyone doubted them. Today, Tiangong operates flawlessly while the ISS faces retirement. The geopolitical stakes are monumental. The Outer Space Treaty prevents territorial claims, but it says nothing about resource extraction. Translation: You can't own the moon, but you absolutely can mine it. Lunar regolith contains helium-3, rare earth elements, and water ice worth fortunes. If China establishes the first permanent presence and starts extracting resources, they don't just win bragging rights. They control supply chains for materials that don't exist on Earth. Billionaire collectors would pay obscene amounts for genuine lunar samples. Scientific institutions would depend on Chinese suppliers. The economic and strategic implications cascade for decades. This is where simplified Starship becomes America's trump card. With 20 to 30% less dry mass than standard Starship, roughly 1,400 tons, fully fueled, it maintains the same 1,600 tons of thrust from 6 Raptor 3 engines. Less weight means Super Heavy can push it to higher energy orbits. Less weight means fewer orbital refueling flights needed. Less weight means carrying up to 200 tons of cargo per mission, habitat modules, nuclear reactors, ISRU equipment, everything needed for Moonbase Alpha. But there's a technical mountain to climb first: orbital refueling. No one has ever transferred cryogenic propellant in microgravity. Liquid methane at minus 160 degrees Celsius and liquid oxygen at minus 183 degrees Celsius constantly boil off even in insulated tanks. In zero-gravity, liquids don't settle at the bottom, they float unpredictably. Managing pressure differentials, flow rates, thermal control, and venting while 2 spacecraft dock at 17,000 miles per hour, that's not just hard, that's potentially mission-ending if anything goes wrong. SpaceX's current plan targets mid-2026 for the first orbital refueling demonstration. Launch 2 Starships, maybe one from Starbase Pad 2, another from LC-39A at Kennedy Space Center. The first Starship loiters in orbit for a week, minimizing propellant boil-off. The second launches as a tanker, autonomously docks, and transfers enough propellant to prove the concept works. Here's my analysis of what this actually means. Elon Musk claims orbital refueling is easier than docking with ISS because we're docking with ourselves. Technically true, but that oversimplifies the challenges. ISS docking uses proven systems with decades of flight heritage. Cryogenic propellant transfer at this scale? Zero flight heritage. The first attempt has maybe a 60 to 70% success probability based on SpaceX's historical test performance. If it fails, they'll need multiple attempts, each requiring a month of preparation. 5 tests over 5 months could push the uncrewed HLS lunar mission into late 2026 or early 2027. But here's the strategic insight most analysts miss. Delaying the uncrewed HLS test until 2027 might actually be smarter. Artemis isn't a single mission. It's a synchronized system. SLS, Orion, and HLS must work together perfectly. Forcing an HLS test flight in 2026 without coordinated Orion data from Artemis 2 wastes the opportunity to validate integrated operations. Better to wait until Artemis 2 returns real lunar orbit data in mid-2026, then refine HLS based on what Orion actually experiences. That reduces docking failure risks and increases Artemis 3's success probability dramatically. The political calculus also shifted, with China targeting 2030 instead of 2026 to 2027, pushing Artemis 3 to 2028 gives America breathing room without surrendering the race. Trump's executive order acknowledges this reality. 1 extra year makes the mission achievable instead of recklessly rushed. Remember, early Starship flights show 30 to 40% issue rates, severe heat shield damage, propellant leaks, engine instability. A catastrophic HLS failure in 2026 wouldn't just delay the program, it would hand China a propaganda victory and potentially trigger congressional investigations that freeze funding. This is where simplified Starship's brilliance truly shines. By having expendable variants available, SpaceX creates operational flexibility. Need to test lunar landing techniques quickly? Use simplified Starship. Need to deliver heavy cargo? Simplified Starship. Need backup vehicles if HLS development hits snags? Simplified Starship. Meanwhile, the fully reusable Starship continues development without the crushing pressure of being humanity's only path to the moon. The data generated from simplified Starship lunar landings feeds directly into high-fidelity 3D simulations for crewed missions. Every landing reveals unexpected regolith behavior, engine plume interactions, dust mitigation challenges, variables impossible to model accurately from Earth. That real-world data is worth far more than the $30 million hardware cost because it directly increases astronaut survival probability. So here's the bottom line that separates dreamers from doers. SpaceX built its reputation on full reusability, but winning the moon race requires strategic flexibility. The simplified Starship isn't a compromise. It's a tactical weapon designed to accelerate America's timeline, while China methodically executes their plan. 2026 will be the year that defines this entire race. SpaceX needs to validate Starship V3 through Flight 12, prove orbital refueling actually works, and potentially land an uncrewed vehicle on the lunar surface. That's not just ambitious, it's barely achievable even for SpaceX. But if they pull it off, Artemis 3 becomes reality in 2028, and America establishes the infrastructure that controls lunar resources for decades. The irony? Elon Musk probably hates admitting that expendable rockets still have a place in SpaceX's future. But this isn't about ego or perfect engineering philosophy. This is about geopolitical dominance, economic control of off-world resources, and preventing China from writing the rules for humanity's multi-planetary future. The simplified Starship represents something rare in modern space policy. Pragmatic genius willing to sacrifice ideology for victory. What do you think? Can SpaceX actually land an uncrewed HLS mission by late 2026? Drop 226 in the comments if you believe they'll pull it off. And if this breakdown gave you new insights into the moon race, smash that like button and share this video with anyone who still thinks space exploration is just about science. Subscribe to Space Update 24 hours because 2026 is going to be absolutely insane, and you don't want to miss a single development. We're grinding toward 150,000 subscribers, and your support genuinely matters. See you in the next one.